Well, we have staff from 3 U.S. senators with us here today, and while the senators were unable to be here, we've got, again, their senior staff with us. I'd like to ask Ann Longsworth-Orr to come up. She is the Northwest Ohio Regional Representative for Ohio Senator Sherrod Brown, and she's been there since 2012. Ann.
Thank you very much. It's an honor to be here today to say a few words on behalf of Senator Brown, who had previous commitments elsewhere and was unable to be here. But I know he would have liked very much to have been here himself for the announcement of these additional resources that will empower NRCS to further expand successful conservation efforts. Senator Brown thanks Chief Weller for his commitment to improving water quality in Western Lake Erie. USDA and NRCS are dedicated to using all available tools at their disposal in our basin. The Conservation Effects Assessment Project, CEAP, has helped NRCS identify successful conservation practices across Northwest Ohio and beyond. This data and this additional funding will allow NRCS to capitalize on these best practices. CEAP shows that conservation efforts work. As Chief Weller mentioned, CEAP provided the data that shows that conservation efforts at a minimum help prevent sediment loss by 81%, nitrogen loss by 36%, and phosphorus loss by 75%. CEAP proves that conservation efforts can have big economic benefits, allowing farmers to use less phosphorus, have higher yields, and lower costs. Today's announcement will build upon the work already being done through the Regional Conservation Partnership Program grant and will play a key role in meeting the state's goal of reducing runoff by 40% in the coming years. Finally, Senator Brown wants to thank all of the stakeholders who've worked so hard to make this project happen. From agricultural and commodity groups, to community leaders, elected officials, to environmental advocates. With these partnerships, we can accomplish what we all seek, a cleaner and healthier Lake Erie. Thank you.
Thanks, Ann. Next, I'd like to ask Wes Fahrbach to come up. And Wes is the District Director for Ohio Senator Rob Portman, and he's been with the Senator since 2011. Welcome, Wes.
Thank you very much. On behalf of Senator Rob Portman, I'm pleased to be here today. As most of you know, after a couple of high-profile events, it caused the need for legislation at the federal level and at the state level, and much of that's been bipartisan, just to help address some of the problems that have occurred the last few years. In addition to the appropriations and dollars that are being announced today, it helps to create that framework to try to address some of the problems in the Western Lake Erie Basin. But I think stepping back and looking at that framework, the most important people are those of you in the audience, whether you're a volunteer or representing an organization that will be the boots on the ground, so to speak, that will help to implement these programs. And having attended a lot of the meetings in the Western Lake Erie Basin, as has been mentioned early, between Terry Crosby and Colonel Jansen, they've helped to create a lot of potential programs that can help to be implemented, and that's the most important part. The challenge continues to be for those of you in the audience, whether it be universities like Ohio State and the Sea Grant, or UT, or Heidelberg, or conservation organizations, agricultural organizations. We're just getting started to address those problems. And as an old boss of mine used to say, when you make an announcement or a decision, it's time to get moving. And he would say, let's roll and let's get it done. Thank you.
Thanks, Wes. Next, I'd like to ask Brandon Fewins to come on up, and he is the Regional Manager for Michigan Senator Debbie Stabenow. Welcome to Ohio. You crossed the line.
Yes. Well, hello, and I have the distinct feeling I'm probably like the last obstacle between all of you and lunch. So I'm going to try to respect that and just say that for those of you who may not be familiar with Senator Stabenow, as co-chair of the Great Lakes Task Force, she often talks about when you're from the state of Michigan, and I think we can expand that out to our brothers and sisters from the Great Lakes states, that when you're from a Great Lakes states, the Great Lakes are really a part of who you are. It defines our people. It's part of our DNA almost. But the problem is we have faced serious challenges throughout the Great Lakes today. We're all aware of the issues of invasive species. We're aware of the periodic beach closings, loss of habitat, endangered and threatened fisheries, and the dangers posed to our drinking water. And looking at these challenges, Senator Stabenow a few years ago, as chairwoman of the Senate Agriculture Committee, took a step back and tried to come up with some way that she could help address these critical concerns for the Great Lakes, but not only in the Great Lakes, the critical environmental areas throughout the country. And she offered something called the Regional Conservation Partnership Program, RCPP. And it's underneath the 2014 Farm Bill, part of USDA. What this initiative is partly tapping into is that program. And the idea being, and I'm going to bottom line it because you've heard all the details, but the bottom line of it is partners and collaborations work. And we know, as just testified from our farmer here, that our nation's farmers and landowners are committed to being excellent stewards of our water, soil, and air. When I travel around Senator Stabenow throughout Michigan, and I'm always struck when we meet with some of our Native American partners. They talk about not making decisions based on what's best for today or tomorrow, but what's best for the next 7 generations. I can think of no better fitting example for our Great Lakes than that mantra. And it lines up perfectly with Senator Stabenow's passion to preserve and protect the Great Lakes. Because ultimately, we want to make sure that we hand off the Great Lakes to my children and your children in better condition than what our father's generation handed it to us. On behalf of Senator Stabenow, please keep up the outstanding work, and congratulations.
Thank you, Brandon. We're now going to close this portion of our agenda today to allow for the media interviews. And for those of you that have registered for lunch, you should have an orange ticket. We will get started back here at 12:30 in this room. And so I just wanted to say thank you for coming, thank you for caring, and thank you for your kind attention this morning.